So, Lech Lecha, Sefer Bereshit. Wow, unbelievable. We're in the third Parashat. And the topic is, Anochi Magen Lach. I'm protecting you. So, אחר הדברים האלה היה דבר השם אל אברהם במחזה לאמור, right? So he said, after he revealed to him, right, in the prophecy or in the vision, he said, Al tira, don't fear, right? Don't be afraid or scared. Anochi Magen Lecha scharcha harbe, right? I'm protecting you and I'm going to give you lots of reward. In the holy books, באר אברהם, מבאר מרן הסבא הקדוש תסלון עם זכותו הגנו. So he explained that. והנה אברהם אבינו היה מתיירא לאחר כל הניסים הגדולים שעשה עמו הקדוש ברוך הוא. Right, so Abraham, you know, I think we can say that Abraham had a trauma, right? Not that I'm chas v'chalila saying, but from what you read here, he said Abraham was scared after all the miracle that Hashem did to him. Right, did to him in Ur Kasdim, fighting the four kings, right? He was throwing into the furnace, you know, his father was trying to kill him, he was hiding him, he revealed, he gave him to Nimrod, throw him into the Ur Kasdim. You have the nisyonot. Not all the nisyonot are mentioned in the Torah, but we have the Lech Lecha and the Akedah and everything. So Abraham was scared that after all the miracle that Hashem did to him, that maybe because he passed these nisyonot, he will have itromemut alev, so he will be feeling very elevated, inspired from what he did, and then ve'avo chas v'chalila lezachut hadat. So he can be zachut hadat. I'm not sure how you translate it to English, but zachuach is someone that is full of himself, very confident, very have like a self-esteem, but on the negative, on the gaiva side. It's like nothing can happen to me, nobody can do anything to me, I'm on the top of the world. So that's why they were scared, that he will go to that negative gaiva, right, pride. And he explained that he will imagine to himself that the fact that Hashem helped him so much because he is deserve it, he is entitled to have it. Right? And therefore he like dressed himself with Yirat Shamayim, with fear from heaven, because this is actually the advice, this is the cure for Zachut Hadat, for Gaiva, to have fear. Because really, and you know, some of us going to Rabbi Zupnik Shiurim, you're always saying that we are a small, tiny little bacteria in a petri dish, you know, compared to Hashem and like who we are. Even if you will work all your life and do Torah and mitzvot and learn 24/7, you cannot pay back to Hashem even on one breath that we breathing. She said, so the only advice against really being full of ourselves or having this gava is to have fear by like inspiring and waking up and making the fear in his heart more and more, then he will nullify that zechut hadat, the gava. However, he said, indeed, Hashem amar lo, al tira Avraham, don't be scared. You don't need really to hold in the level of yira in order to save yourself from the gaiva, because for you I have something else. Me, I myself, magen lach, anochi magen lach, I'm protecting you. Which means all the miracle that I did for you was from that level of bitachon, of faith that you had in me, that I'm protecting you. And because you have such kind of a faith, then you have lots of reward. And this is me'od, and he says in Masechet Avot, right, me'od avesh shfal ruach, you should be very, very humble. The afshes charcharbe, even though that your reward is plenty of reward, that Hashem giving it to you, that will not bring you into gaiva. Ela leme'od leshiflut ruach, but it will make you humble. She'im ata yodea shekol kochecha, because if you know that your strength, whatever you have, your power that you have, they are coming because you have faith in Hashem, you have bitachon in Hashem, that Hashem is protecting, Hashem is your shelter, then all the miracle that Hashem will do will just bring him to be humble, with a broken heart, but on the positive side. And this is what we said that, right? We said in the Shmona Esrei, the first bracha, right? We said Shem of Abraham, Yitzchak and Yaakov, but we're finishing with Baruch Ata Hashem Magen Avraham. חותמים בברכה ראשונה של 18, מגן אברהם. Even though we have the three fathers, but still we were like signing off with Avraham, that passed all the ניסיונות. והיינו דמפרש הכתוב, so the Torah verse, אנוכי מגן לך, right, that I'm protecting you, that Hashem was the like the shield and מבטחו and a safe haven of Avraham Avinu. He said שתדיר יחזוק, like he was very persistent, constantly he was holding in the middle of ביטחון בשם יתברך. ובכוח זה עבר את הכל. And you know all of this thing because Avraham from age of 3, 4, living in a cave alone, running away from the people that tried to kill him, to murder him, eventually was thrown into the furnace, discovering there is Hashem. He was like, you know, preaching and teaching and Megayer and you know and people were chasing him. And then you have the issue with the furnace, and then the war with the king and Lot, and he had a very you know, lots of nisyonot in his life. But because he have the level of bitachon, he could pass everything. And this is also the meaning of the Chatimat HaBracha Rishona, when we're signing off in the first bracha, which is Magen Avraham. And that's the thing, Magen Avraham, Hashem is protecting Avraham. Now we can look differently at the Shmona Esrei when we say, right, Elokei Avraham, Elokei Yitzchak, Elokei Yaakov, Gadol, Gibor v'Anora, the mighty, Baruch Ata Hashem, Magen Avraham, protecting Avraham. And Avraham is also us, we are the descendants. Because you have the faith, the bitachon, the trust in Hashem. ויש לבאר שאיכות עניין הביטחון במיוחד אברהם אבינו, right, and we should explain the trust that Hashem has with Hashem. And we found two inyanim, which is the midah of Avraham Avinu. Ha'emunah, faith that was the head of all the ma'aminim. Avraham was the head, right, the leader of all the people that have faith. And also the level of the chesed and ahava, kindness and love. כמו שנקרא אברהם אוהבי, right? Hashem called him Avraham, my beloved. And the bitachon, the trust in Hashem, is actually coming, the foundation of it is from these two things, the faith and love and kindness. And as we explained that the Yesod HaBitachon, that level of trust, is including in the first commandment from the 10 Commandments. Anochi Hashem Elokecha, this is the mitzvah of to believe in Hashem, which is also including in these two parts. I am Hashem, that's the faith that Hashem, Itbarach Shmo, Hu Borei Umanig, is the creator and he is the leader and he did and he's doing and he will do. And also, Anochi Elokecha, I'm your God, right? The Elokim is our God. Judgment, fear, right? Strength. And he said, Benkach u Benkach nikru banim. We are called sons. Vezeu Yesod, right? And Zeu Yesod Abitachon. That's like the core of the trust in Hashem. That we really trusting Hashem, and for sure we know that Hashem loves us. And that's connection between us and Hashem will never change. And He is our God. And it doesn't matter where we are. I can tell you like a short story that I read about. I think I told you that Mordechai yesterday, from Rabbi Yigal Cohen. He said that we should never judge people. And he tells a story about there was a family, a woman and a husband, that they have a restaurant in Israel in a nice, trendy, expensive place called Caesarea in Israel. And they had a treif restaurant, open 7 days in a week. The only day that it was not open was Yom Kippur, because by the law in Israel, you cannot open restaurant in Yom Kippur. And but he said, but the owner of the restaurant, she was renting it. She hated it. She didn't want. They were selling treif, shrimps, and everything, you know. But she didn't like it. But she couldn't stop it. But she was crying in her heart. And one day her mother passed away, and then she said, enough is enough. But the landlord he gets his rental part of the from the revenue from every day. It's a percentage. And when her husband came to the landlord and said, you know, we want to close the restaurant on Shabbat, he tried to reject that. So the husband said, you know, we will guarantee whatever profit we did, whatever, you know, we will pay it from our pocket for the Shabbat. So he agreed. And she said that she was so happy. And the Rabbi Eagle said, you know, and if you look at her and you know who she, and actually said that he got permission to say the name of the restaurant, and the restaurant name was Atzal Banim. So Atzal Banim, it's in English, the Crusaders, the crusade. So he said, and if you see her in the street, then you will judge her. He said, you know, oh, she's selling treif, she's a kafir, a heretic, she will burn in hell, etc. But you don't know what's going on in her heart. She was suffering the whole years. Eventually, he said that they did tshuva, the Shomrei Shabbat, the restaurant today called Hatzel Banim, Save Our Sons, Hatzel Banim, and it's Glat Kosher in Caesarea. They made tshuva and everything. And he said, we can never judge, you know, you don't know. Even if somebody look like he's like much lower than you, he's not frum at all, doesn't say anything, doesn't mean anything. And this is exactly what he say here, that Hashem love us and Hashem know whatever condition we are, right? And he says, "Shemigodel avat Hashem yitbarach shuev l'Hashem." So we love Hashem, Hashem love us, and that love help us to get to perfection, completion of trust in Hashem. That we trust Hashem that He will lead us, whether if it is a nation or individual, each person for what is best for him. And Avraham Avinu, from that strength, from that koach ha'emunah, from this trust and from the love to Hashem, he really achieved that level. And he said, "Yesh lichlol," and also we need to include in the Ma'amar Marab Saba Kadosh Melechovitz Zechoto Galenu, in his explanation for the 10 nisyonot nitnasa Avraham Avinu, v'amad bekulam. So this is the language in Hebrew, right? So there is a meaning. So what does it mean, amad? Amad literally is stand. Like he stand in all the nisyonot, but no, stand in Amidah, en Amidah el tefillah, mean davening. To stand, it's like Shmona Esrei. We're standing in Shmona Esrei. We omdim, right? Tfilat Amidah. This is what it's called, Tfilat Amidah. So he said, so all the nisayon, every nisayon that he passed, he didn't look for people to help him, or he Google, you know, what should I do in a case of somebody wants to throw me into the furnace? You know, hit enter for the search. No. He said because he's actually Bikesh, he was looking for Hashem to help him, and he throw on Hashem his problem, right? Like he davened to Hashem, and by doing that, he got again to completion of his trust, and therefore Chotmim Magen Avraham. We sign off the bracha with the Shmonas in Magen Avraham, and Hashem was protecting him, right? Hashem haya magino mivtacho. It was his like insurance, and that helped him to pass all the nisyonot. And this is the inyan asara nisyonot, right? Nitnasa Avraham Avinu v'ad bekulam. So he had 10 nisyonot, and he passed them all to announce kama chibato shel Avraham Avinu, right? That he loves Hashem and Hashem loves him. A special affection, a special love. Like the Ramban wrote in the Sefer Emunah U'Bitachon. אל תחשוב שמעלתו של אברהם אבינו הייתה כה גדולה מצד שקיים כל התורה. Don't think that the level of Abraham, which was a higher level, came because he kept the Torah. Because also in Israel, there were people that were keeping the Torah, they were learning, they were davening, etc. But because chibato lifnei hamakom, because his love to Hashem, this is what helped him to stand in the nisyonot. And he said, and it seems to be like we need to explain that as well. שהרי גם מעשרה ניסיונות, יש עוד כאלו בישראל שבו אותם, because unfortunately, through the history, were many Jews that were having these difficulties in nisyonot. But he said, no. The meaning here is by the ofen achiba, the way that he loved Hashem. And also explain more, according to what the Maran he wrote in the drasha, right, about the nisayon ha'akedah, the last one, right, which is to slaughter Yitzchak. He said שהניסיון הבא היה בזה שלא אמר לו הקדוש ברוך דבר כציווי. he said, Hashem didn't really command him. But he says, Kachna. Ein na ela l'shom bakasha. When somebody is telling you, na, it means, please, can I have this? Please, can you do this? Please, can you? You can answer, no, I cannot. Right? And he says, Ein na ela l'shom bakasha. Im tov benecha, if it's good in your eyes, aleu leola, bring him to the sacrifice. V'yeh lefanav nachat ruach mizeh, and it will be pleasing for me. But if you won't do that, it's not going to consider to be as a sin. Because Hashem didn't command you, just requested him. It's a different question, you know, when Hashem is even requesting something for you, how can you dare and say no? Right? And he said, וזה שהדבר היה בדרך, right, בדרך בקשה. It was on a way, it was like in a form of a request, and Hashem gave him the decision, right? ומסר ההכרעה ביד אברהם אבינו, הגדיל למוד את הניסיון. He said, the fact that it was a request, not a commandment, and he gave Abraham Avinu the decision, to make the decision, that's like even increased the level of the Nisayon. Because beside the Nisayon itself, which was to slaughter his own son, as it says in the Holy Book, that in the time when Hashem told him, right, Asher Ha'avta, right, it was like a process, right, that Hashem told him, right, Kach bilcha yechidcha, Asher Ha'avta, et Yitzchak, right, because I have two sons, both of them I love, and then eventually he said it, Yitzchak. So that process, like, nitlavsha kol ahava sheyesh ba'olam, like all the love in the world were coming to Avraham to love Yitzchak. And now it's even more and more and more difficult now really to take the son and to slaughter him, because suddenly he loved him even more. But still he passed that Nisayon. And on top of it, he was not like really obligated to do it. It was his decision. And only because he loved Hashem so much, this is what actually put the weight on the decision to say, yes, I'm going it. And he went over there to do it with happiness. La'asot ratzon kono, to do Hashem will. And this is to announce and to let us know how much Avraham Avinu loved Hashem. As the Rambam says, right, B'inyan kiyum mitzvat avat Hashem karoi. So said, the Rambam said from the Sefer Ilchot Tshuva, like, he gave us instruction how we should really love Hashem. He said like a sick love, like the first love for some of us that know, you know, the first girl that you love, the first youth love. He said, this is that all the time you're thinking about him, you want to please him, you want to be with him, you don't want to leave him for 1 second. This is how we should be. Chole ava, sick love. That your mind is always occupied with Hashem. Whether you're waking up, go to sleep, all the time. Such a great level. This is crazy, unbelievable, right? To get to that level. And this is what Shlomo Melech said, Derech Mashal, analogy, Ki cholat ahava ani, right, in Shir HaShirim. And the entire Shir HaShirim, right, it's an analogy to love Hashem. And some stupid people think that this is like between a man and a woman. No. It's metaphorically, it's look like a man loves a woman, but actually it's all to Hashem. And it's using it as an analogy because otherwise we will not really understand how is it possible. Which is a higher level above all achievement. And therefore Avraham was really unique in that title, Ohev Hashem, Avraham Oavi, right? Because he got to that peak, even more than Siklam. And that's why that was helping him to get. So Bezat Hashem, you know, we should have some kind of love to Hashem and to remember that. And that's why it says, V'neochim again lecha. So just to recap, because Avraham Avinu had so much love to Hashem, that bring him to bitachon, to trust Hashem. So therefore, whatever he was facing, each and every nisayon, that helped him physically to pass the nisayon. Because Mida keneged Mida. He loved Hashem so much, Hashem loved him so much, and he helped him to pass the nisayon. Because he have that trust in Hashem. And Bezat Hashem, you know, it says that it's in our DNA. It's in our DNA. Thank you for listening.